Welcome back. A city mourns a disaster 1 decade later. Hurricane Katrina made landfall on the US Gulf Coast on August 29, 2005. Ultimately, more than 1,800 lives were lost and 1 million people were displaced across the American South. It was the city of New Orleans that bore the brunt of the devastation. Now the city is turning to tradition, marking the anniversary with both somber and uplifting ceremonies, while taking stock of the progress that's been made and the problems that still remain. Joining us with more on this is Suzanne Malveaux in New Orleans, Louisiana. And Suzanne, it's a somber day honouring the people who died. Tell us about the events that have taken place to mark this anniversary.
Certainly, Lynda. I mean, it's so appropriate when you hear the music, because New Orleans really is a city all about based in music and rhythm and jazz, the birth of jazz. My family is from New Orleans, and of course this has been a mixed day for many of us here because on the one hand, the day began very somber, if you will. It was a reflection, a prayer service for those people who lost their lives, and not just lost their lives, but 80 unidentified hurricane victims, and that just underscores what it was like in the days initially after the storm, when the bodies were floating and people couldn't even find their loved ones. That's how painful it was. The day then moved on to a celebration of resilience, when we saw in various wards service projects, people helping each other out, and again, that really marks what happened in the months and the years following, is that volunteers from many different places came to this city to help rebuild. It was just last night, Lynda, that there was a ceremony with the mayor and musicians Harry Connick Jr., Branford Marsalis, who were thanking people from around the world. I mean, it was Qatar, it was Canada, it was Germany, volunteers from all over the world who came to this city to try to help people get from under. And that is what this weekend has really been about, a big thank you, an international thank you, if you will, to help get people back to where they needed to be.
There was huge reaction internationally at that time, and of course everyone around the world watched this chaotic response to the disaster. Some people, as you know, were waiting a week to be rescued. In retrospect, what have we learned?
Well, it's interesting in talking to so many people here 10 years later, and the consensus seems to be is that those people who were doing poorly before Hurricane Katrina are generally not doing very well today, and those who were doing okay before Katrina are doing better. And the reason why is we are seeing the money that's being poured into the tourism industry, the entertainment industry. That is what New Orleans desperately needs, those dollars. But then you have some of the workers, the people who change the sheets in the hotels, a mom who has 2 jobs and still is living in poverty, that is not enough money to raise a family. So there's a real disparity here. While the city is coming back, while you've got more hotels, more restaurants, more businesses, there's still a group of people that are left behind. So this is certainly not a recovery that is completed just quite yet, Lynda.
Yeah, still tough times there. Suzanne Malveaux, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Hurricane Katrina destroyed countless lives, but it also ruined infrastructure. It took down businesses and wrecked buildings. One of those was Charity Hospital in New Orleans. CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, tells the story of the brave medical staff who stepped in to save lives when the deadly storm struck.
They were deplorable conditions I'll never forget.
Here, we were up to our ankles in water.
Doctors, nurses, patients, making the most of an unfolding disaster inside the hospital called Charity.
We don't have electricity, we don't have water, you know, we can't run labs, we can't take x-rays. I mean, we're basically back to primitive medicine.
We have no showers or toilets at all.
For days after Hurricane Katrina first hit, the staff and patients at Charity waited, hoped, and prayed.
I love you. I need you to survive.
I didn't realize how intimately connected to our patients we would be. Prior to that, I assumed I had a wonderful relationship with my patients, but honestly, most of them, I couldn't tell you what their names were prior to Katrina.
Communication with the outside world was near impossible. Many news organizations had reported Charity was safely evacuated. But then a doctor called into the Situation Room from inside the hospital to tell the world, "We are stranded. Please help."
Initially, we lost power, and different parts of the hospital had trouble getting the backup generators to work.
But still, nothing. So determined to take matters into their own hands, the team at Charity paddled critically ill patients down the street to a nearby parking deck. The roof served as a makeshift helipad. Time had run out.
We are their only hope, and we are trying as hard as we can to get them some help.
What's going to happen to some of these patients if we don't get them out of here?
2 of them have already died here on this ramp waiting to get out in this very spot.
It was nearly a week after Katrina first made landfall that the last patient was finally evacuated. But the hospital that had never shut its doors for nearly 300 years didn't survive. Charity never reopened, and the long-term impact of that remains to be seen.
I would dare say that in the next 10 years, our cancer rates will be higher, our cardiovascular death rates will be higher, so stroke, heart attack will all be higher.
10 years to the month, LSU did finally open its brand new billion-dollar mega hospital. It's certainly not too little, but the people of New Orleans are hoping it's just not too late. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, New Orleans.